What's going on, my fourth grade friends? Happy Wednesday. We are almost halfway through the week. I hope everybody has done a really good job and is doing okay at home. We are on lesson 12 today. The title of our lesson is Add Your Understanding. It's a brand new topic. Topic D, addition with tenths and hundredths. Now, we've already done this with fractions. We're going to start with fractions again, adding fractions, and then we're going to bridge that to adding decimals. Before we get into that, I need you guys to do the lessons beforehand. Most of you are doing a great job. There are a handful of students that are behind. So in order to get onto lesson 12 today, you must do lessons 1 through 10. Lucky you, though, I cut out lesson 11. It's not part of this unit. Don't worry about lesson 11. It's like floor 13 in a hotel. It doesn't exist. It's phantom, okay? So we are on lesson 12 today. Make sure you are sticking to that. All right, our objective for today is students will be able to apply understanding of fraction equivalence to add tenths and hundredths, okay? So we're going to talk about creating units that are equivalent so that we're able to add multiple fractional pieces together. Once again, you are responsible for your fluency components. That is your number gym and your discovery canyon. I will pick it up with our guided practice under the math chat, and then we'll bounce right over to the tower of power. Now, what I'm going to do during this is I'm going to introduce some future ideas and concepts because I want to start to get those brains activated and thinking about what is coming up rather than just focusing on today's lesson. So we're going to build in multiple ideas today. Just sit back, do your best, and be prepared to learn. Let's kick it off.
What's up, math chatter? Let's chat math.
All right, very simple question. Let's complete the addition sentence. Here we have 3 girls plus 2 girls. How many girls does that equal? If you said 5 girls, you are correct. Very nice job. Pretty simple addition problem. Let's keep it moving. Now, why can't we add 3 girls plus 2 students? Why is it hard to add 3 girls plus 2 students? Well, the reason is because I know that although the numbers can be added together, I don't know exactly what these units can't be combined easily. They're different units, okay? So the numbers aren't too big to add. We can cross that out. The values seem to be correct. You could easily have 3 girls and then 2 separate students, but this is the key right here. The units are not the same. Our girls and students are different. Now, what I want you to do is I want you to answer in Google Classroom in a private message. What can I change this unit to, girls, in order to add these together? Or what can I change students to in order to add these together? Go ahead and pause the video now and answer that question in Google Classroom. Okay, you're back. Let's go ahead and see what we can change those units to so that we are able to add them together.
3 girls plus 2 girls equals 5 girls. But we can't add 3 girls plus 2 students because the units don't match. You're right. But let's say the girls are also students.
So notice, my friends, in order to solve our problem, we, instead of saying 3 girls, we changed our units from girls to students. And now we have like units, all right? And we're able to add those like units together. Let's complete the addition sentence and keep the units the same. So I'm actually going to start with my units. My new unit is students. Let's put that in the back. Make sure you grab and then drag it. All right, and then we can add together our values. We have 3 plus 2. I think we can all do that. That is 5 students. Let's press enter. Great job, good work.
Since the girls are students, we can rename 3 girls as 3 students. Now the units are the same, so we can add 5 students. Looking good.
Okay, now check this out. We took the example with our students and our girls, and now we're going to look at it, but we're going to use a different unit. So when we talk about units, it's been a little while since we've done fractions, but we always talk about units in terms of our denominator. Say it with me, denominator. Very nice. So here our units are fourths. I want to rewrite this a little bit different. I'm going to write 3/4 plus 2/4. And I want to know how many fourths that gives me. All right, well, just like when we added our students together, if our units are the same, fourths, we know our answer will also be in fourths. We'll keep the unit consistent. 3 plus 2 is 5. So our answer is 5/4. Now let's bring it back up here to our fractions. 3/4 plus 2/4. Well, who remembers the rule for adding together fractions? I hope you're thinking what I'm thinking here. You can only add fractions together that have the same denominator. These are called like fractions. Say it with me. Like fractions. And once you have the same denominator, okay, or a common denominator, you know your answer is going to be in that same unit. So our answer will be in fourths. And how many fourths do we have? Well, we have 3 plus 2. We know that's 5/4. Let's type it in. 5/4. Excellent work.
3/4 plus 2/4 is 5/4. What about 3/4 plus 1/2?
All right, my friends, they're using this note page here. Don't worry about this. All I want you to do is have a separate piece of paper or a notebook, some scratch paper, and then we can do our work on that. So let's press next. And here's our question. I want you to write down the problem. 3/4 plus 1/2. All right, how can we rewrite 3/4 plus 1/2 using like units? So we need to find a common denominator. Right now we have fourths and halves. Now what can I change in order to make these the same, to find common denominators? Well, I can easily turn 2 into 4 if I multiply it by 2. But remember, to keep that fraction equivalent, I need to multiply the top and the bottom by the same amount. So if I multiplied my denominator 2 by 2, I need to multiply my numerator 1 by 2. Okay, now that's going to give me a new fraction. I'm going to rewrite that underneath. 3/4 plus 2/4. Now, notice I have the same units here, fourths, the same denominator, so I can add these together. So let's see our options here. We can rename each unit using thirds. Well, we have fourths and halves, so that won't help us. We can rename 1/2 using fourths. We know that's the correct answer, but let's just rule out this last one. See what it says. We can rename each fraction using halves. I actually can't. I could divide 4 in half, but I can't divide 3 in half and have a whole number on top. All right, 3 divided in 2 is 1/2, or 1 and 1/2. That won't work for us. So that's crossed out, and we have our correct answer selected. Rename 1/2 using fourths. Okay, so we just did this. All right, we have 3/4, and then we changed our 1/2 into 2/4. And now we're able to add our numerators together. That gives us 5/4. I want you all to be writing these notes down as we go along. Looks good. All right, we just solved it. We know our answer is 5/4. Nice work, my friends.
They don't have the same units. We need to make like units before we add. We can convert 1/2 to 2/4, and then add 3/4 plus 2/4, 5/4 again.
So y'all, in order to get to that 2/4, remember we just multiplied this by 2, our numerator, and our denominator by 2. So now this right here, 1/2 times 2 over 2, got us to 2/4. Okay?
Correct. Try another.
Okay, here our problem is up top. I want everybody to write this on their scrap paper. We have 6/10 plus 57/100ths. In Google Classroom, I want you to tell me, why can't I add these together right now? Why can't I add these together? You can pause the video and write your answer now. Okay, my friends, you are back. The reason that we cannot add these together is because we have different denominators. They are uncommon. We need to have common denominators. So before we do, we're going to follow their instructions. We're going to use a fraction model for this, or an area model. We're shading 6/10 on this area model. Let's go ahead and shade it in. There's 1/10. Count with me. 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10. 6/10 are shaded. Very nice job. Let's press enter. How can we add on 57/100ths? Well, I know I can't add 6/10 to 57/100ths. We just talked about that. They have different denominators, different units. But can I change one of these fractions in order to add it to the other? I think I can. I think I can easily convert this denominator, my tenths, into hundredths. All I have to do is multiply it by 10. Okay? If I multiply the denominator by 10, I must multiply the numerator by 10, and that will allow me to convert 6/10 to hundredths. 6/10 to hundredths. Okay? We can't add 57/10. That won't help us. See ya. Because in order to do that, I would have to divide 100 by 10, and I can't divide 57 by 10 here. And then I can't multiply 6/10 by 10. I could multiply it by 10 over 10, like we did here, but I can't just multiply it by 10, so that won't work as well. We're going to convert 6/10 to hundredths. Nice job. All right, we decomposed the area model into hundredths. So we turned our 6/10 into 60/100ths. Notice it right there. We have 60 out of 100 shaded in. All right. And I just gave away the answer here, but that's okay. We can see that we have 60 hundredths filled in, 60 of these units out of 100 now. That's our equivalent fraction. Say it with me, equivalent fraction. Let's keep it moving. All right, my friends. Now, our problem essentially changed to 60 hundredths plus 57 hundredths. Our denominators are the same. We have the same unit. So these are now out of hundredths. And what do I have to do here? What do you guys think? Well, if we already have 60, why don't we go ahead and add 57 more? There's 10 more. There's 20 more. There's 30 more. There's 40 more. There's 50 more. And then 7 on top. 51, 52, 53, 54, 55, 56, 57. Okay, I went ahead and added 57 more. Now start to think about this because you'll have to do this in your next couple slides. When I add 57 more, how many hundredths does that give me? Let's check. Okay, well, I can see up top in my area model, I have one whole. So let's mark down one whole. And then I have, it looks like 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 hundredths, or 17 out of 100 in my second whole area model. So our answer is 1 and 17 hundredths. 1 and 17 hundredths. Another way to look at it is when I do 60 hundredths plus 57 hundredths, I think I got 117, so 117 hundredths. But basically what we did here was we split it up into two parts. This 117, we can look at it like 100 hundredths plus 17 hundredths. 100 hundredths, that's equal to one whole. Remember, if the numerator and the denominator are the same, that's equivalent to one whole. And then I have my leftover fraction here, 17 hundredths. 1 and 17 hundredths. Good work. Okay, they want us to do this as a decimal. Well, here's where our place value chart's going to come in handy. I really need you to think about both parts of this mixed number. You have your whole part and your fraction. Say the whole part with me. 1. Very nice. Let's go ahead and come right over to our place value chart. We're going to do this again. All right. 1 and 17 hundredths. If you don't have a place value chart in front of you, I want you to create your own very quickly. Remember, you're going to have to create a horizontal line. Make sure you put your, let's do it like just like this. We'll put our decimal point there. We have our hundredths, our tenths, our ones, our tens, our hundredths, and our thousandths, TH. Okay, so we have 1, 1. I'll do it on both place value charts. We have 17 hundredths. Now I can't put 17 in my hundredths place. I have 2 digits. So I have to spread them out. My 10 and that 17. All right, I need to bundle that and I have to make that a tenth. So those 10 hundredths, I'm going to make a tenth, and then I'm left with 7 hundredths. 1 and 17 hundredths. 1 and 17 hundredths. It matches our fraction. This is our decimal here. 1 and 17 hundredths. Let's enter it. Good work. Nice job.
First, I shaded 6 full columns to show 6 tenths. That's the same as 60 hundredths. I wanted to add 57 hundredths, but I didn't want to have to shade all 57 boxes. Because one column is 10 hundredths, I can shade 5 columns to show 50 hundredths, and then shade 7 more hundredths. That's 57 hundredths altogether. Our sum is one whole and 17 hundredths more. Love that area model.
All right, let's rewrite this. We're going to solve this using hundredths. So really, we only have to rewrite 1, 6 tenths. How many hundredths would that equal? Well, I have to multiply 10 by 10 to equal 100. So then I also have to multiply 6 by 10, and that gives me 60 hundredths. Let's add that to 57 hundredths. And this is going to be our new addition sentence. 60 hundredths plus 57 hundredths. Make sure you have this written down in your notes. And here we go. 60 hundredths plus 57 hundredths equals 6/10 plus 57 hundredths. All right, when we add these together, we get 60 plus 57. That's 7. 6 plus 5 is 11. Carry 1, drop that. 117 hundredths. All right. I know I can pull out 100 of these and make it a whole number. All right. Basically, I can make this 100 over 117 hundredths. And that's the exact same as 1 whole and 17 hundredths. This should be our mixed number sum. There it is. And when I have 17 hundredths, again, I can write that as a fraction, or I can write it as a decimal like they have it here. Okay? 17 hundredths.
Looking at the addition sentence, we can show where that 1 whole came from in another way by taking 50 hundredths out of each addend, like this. 50 hundredths plus 50 hundredths is 100 hundredths, or 1 whole. And then there are 10 hundredths plus 7 hundredths left to add, 1 and 17 hundredths.
My friends, this is just another unique way of looking at this problem. We pulled out 100 hundredths to make 1 whole. They pulled out 50 from each fraction, added them together, and then made 1 whole out of that. They just did it in 2 steps. We did it in 1.
Great job if you got that one. But don't worry if you didn't. We only learn by making mistakes.
Very true. All right, my friends, this will be a little bit tough to do on your scrap paper. Try your best. They're going to give you examples on Zearn as well, so you can just follow what they have on Zearn, and then you can keep track of what I write in this YouTube video. First, shade the area model to show 9/10. I'm going to shade it. Check my work. Tell me if I'm correct or incorrect. Here's 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10, 8, 9/10. All right, my friends. Here's our 9/10. I left 1/10 open. Here we go. A much more organized and I would say beautifully shaded area model right here. 9/10. Now let's shade 64 hundredths more. So if I'm going to shade 64 hundredths more, I'm going to do it in tenths. I'm going to start by shading 6/10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I know that's the same as 60 hundredths. And then I need 4 more. Let's keep pink. 1, 2, 3, 4. This is 64 hundredths more. Let's see if I'm correct. It looks like I am. Very nice. Now our job, they're gonna ask us what the sum is. What's the total value when we add those 2 fractions together? All right. So we're gonna use the method. We're gonna use this method. We're gonna change one of the fractions, add them together, and then we're gonna write our answer as a decimal. All right. So I'm going to show you this in a few steps. I want everybody to start by adding 9/10 plus 64 hundredths. Write this on your scrap paper. If you feel like you can do this on your own, all right, finding the sum and then turning it into a decimal, go ahead and try. You can pause the video and come back and check your work afterwards. If you're having a little trouble, follow along as I go. All right. Right now, we can't add these together because we have tenths and we have hundredths. We have unlike fractions. Our units are different. So let's turn these tenths into hundredths. I need to multiply 9 by 10 and 10 by 10. That'll give me hundredths. All right, let's write our new numbers underneath. That gives us 90 hundredths plus 64 hundredths. We'll bring that 64 hundredths right on down. All right, and when I add these together, 90 plus 64, we'll do it out here. 90 plus 64. 0 plus 4 is what? 4, correct. 9 plus 6 is what? 15, carry 1, which drops right down. Our answer is 154. And remember, we do not add our denominators together. 154 hundredths. But this right here, okay, that is a improper fraction. We can't leave our answer like that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decompose it. I'm going to take out 100 hundredths. So I'm going to turn it into two fractions. 100 hundredths and 54 hundredths. All right. And I know I can do 100 hundredths because I can see it's 154. I can easily pull out 100 and I'm left with 54 of that same unit. This 100 hundredths turns into one whole, and I'm left with 54 hundredths. And this is my answer as a fraction. If I want to write this answer as a decimal, I don't think that'll be very difficult, okay? We have our one whole, and then how many hundredths do we have? Let's go to our place value chart. One and 54 hundredths. We'll put a 1 in our ones place. We have our fractional value here, 54 hundredths. It can't just go here. I have to spread it out. 5 tenths, 4 hundredths. 1 and 54 hundredths. Okay. Okay, I hope you have this all written down. Let's check our work.
Lucas? First, I shaded 9 full columns to show 9 tenths. Then I shaded another 6 columns and 4 more boxes to add 64 hundredths. So that's 1 whole plus 5 tenths, which is 50 hundredths plus 4 more hundredths, 1 and 54 hundredths.
I converted to hundredths to add. 90 hundredths plus 64 hundredths is 154 hundredths. Then I used a number bond to decompose that into 100 hundredths, or 1 whole, and 54 hundredths.
Notice the 100 hundredths. They pulled right out. That's going to equal 1 whole, and then they're left with their fraction, 54 hundredths.
I got 1 and 54 hundredths too.
All right, and here's our work. We sort of color-coded ours. Here's a number bond here for their improper fraction, their sum in fraction form, and then the same number in decimal form. Nice job, my friends.
Let's do one more. I know you'll rock it.
Okay, so let's think about this. Right now, I have 45 hundredths plus 8 tenths. I can't add these together because the units are different. All right. I need 45 hundredths plus hundredths for my second value. How can I change 8/10 into hundredths? How can I change 8/10 into hundredths? Well, let's do what we did before. Instead of 8/10, I can turn 10 into 100, 10 times 10, and do your numerator times 10. And we're going to put our new problem over here. So this is going to give us 45 hundredths plus 80 hundredths. So now we have 80 hundredths down here. Okay, and I have the same unit. I can add these together now. Let's add them up. 45 plus 80, do it in this corner. 80 plus 45, we'll add our ones place first. 0 plus 5 is 5. 8 plus 4 is 12. That's 125 hundredths. We can't leave it like this. Let's create a number bond so that we can pull out any whole numbers. Okay, I know I can pull out 100. I can pull out 100 hundredths. And then I'm left with 25 hundredths. All right, our number bond tells us that 100 hundredths can be turned into one whole. And then I'm left with 25 hundredths. 1 25 hundredths. This right here is the correct answer if we're only looking for a decimal answer. What if I'm looking for a fraction answer? What if I'm only looking for, what if I'm also looking for my answer in decimal form? Well, let's come over to our place value chart and double check. 1 25 hundredths. 1 25 hundredths. We have 1 1. That's our whole number. I can't put 25 in the hundredths place, but I can spread out my 2/10, and I'll have 5 hundredths here. 1 25 hundredths is our final answer. 1 25 hundredths. All right, nice work, my friends. All right, good job on your math chat. We are on the Tower of Power now. Make sure you are clicking on that to either check your work or to follow along with me. All right, our first question. We're solving 6/10 plus 87 hundredths. Our first step, we're going to shade 6/10 on the area model. Let's go ahead and do it. There's 1/10, 2/10, 3/10, 4/10, 5/10, 6/10. Notice I'm doing 10 hundredths at a time. We have 60 hundredths shaded in, or 6/10. Good work. We're climbing. All right, now shade 87 hundredths more. Well, let's do it by tenths to start. 87 hundredths is like saying 8/10 and 7 hundredths. So let's start with our tenths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 more tenths. And then I'm going to do 7 hundredths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. This should be 87 more hundredths. Make sure you're counting to double check. Good work. All right, so we're just going to use our area model for this. How many whole area models do I have filled in? It looks like I have this one hole filled in. That's one hole. And then if I count up my columns, I have 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 40 hundredths plus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 plus 7 more. That's 47 hundredths filled in the second area model. 1 47 hundredths. Good job. All right, now let's record the decimal represented by the area model. I think at this point, y'all can do your decimals based on your fractions. Make sure you're typing in what the decimal equivalent is here. All right, we have 1 whole and 47 hundredths, 1.47. Nice job. Let's keep climbing. Okay, our first step, step number 1. We need to rewrite 5/10ths as hundredths, okay? So in order to make 10 into hundredths, I have to multiply by 10. Remember, do the same to your numerator. All right, and we're going to write this over here. So 5/10ths are now how many hundredths? If you said 50 hundredths, you are correct. Nice job. And now we can go ahead and add these together. We're adding 50 hundredths plus 12 hundredths. 50 plus 12 is 72. Oop, not 72. I'm sorry, my friends. 62 hundredths. Nice job. Okay, I want to write this in decimal form. Let's use our place value chart just so we can continue to get acquainted with it. All right, we have, I think it was, let's double check, 62 hundredths. Notice, I don't have any whole numbers out in front. No whole numbers there. So I can put a 0 in my ones place, decimal point, and I can't put 62 in here. It's 2 digits. I have to slide that larger digit, that tens place here, the tenths, over. So 6, 2, and here we have 62 hundredths. Let's type it in. 62 hundredths. Nice work. Let's keep climbing. Okay, here they're going to have us do every single step in order to get to our decimal form. So let's go in order. Step 1, we need to create common denominators. We need like fractions here. So I'm going to multiply 5. I'm going to multiply tenths by 10 and this 5 by 10, my 5/10ths. All right, that'll get me hundredths. So instead of 5/10ths, now how many hundredths do I have? You should be writing this in your notebook or on some scrap paper. Make sure you're following along. That gives me 50 hundredths. And I can bring 72 hundredths right down. All right, that is step 1. Step 2, we'll do that in blue. Go ahead and add those together. 50 plus 72. 50 plus 72. Let's do our ones place. 0 plus 2 is 2. Let's do our tens place. 5 plus 7 is 12. 122 hundredths. It's an improper fraction. My numerator is greater than my denominator, so I know I can pull a whole out of this. Let's do a number bond. That'll be step 3 in green. Okay, so I'm going to pull out 100 hundredths, and then I'm left with these 22. Okay, and now I can rewrite my answer as a fraction. Let's do that we'll do that in yellow. Okay, so that's 1 whole. Our 100 hundredths is 1 whole. And then I have 22 hundredths here. And that's my answer. 1 and 22 hundredths. 1 and 22 hundredths. But They didn't want fraction form. They wanted decimal form. So let's go ahead and type that in decimal form. We have 1 whole and 22 hundredths. 1.22 is our final answer. Let's see if it's correct. Let's see. Excellent job. Now, my friends, this problem right here, you're going to have a very similar problem on your exit ticket. Okay? So make sure you're doing these steps in order. Start by changing your tenths to hundredths. Then add them together. Then pull out a whole number if you have to, 100 hundredths. And then you can list it as a fraction and change that to a decimal if you have to at the end. Okay, take your time. I would have this video pulled up. I would rewatch this section like 1 or 2 times. Make sure you have the steps down. If you're having trouble, don't guess. I want you to reach out to me on Google Classroom and ask me while you're doing your exit ticket. All right, let's keep it moving. All right, that's it. Make sure you go back and check that last problem. It's critical. Your exit ticket's going to have a few of these problems. Do your best. I will see you guys over there in a second. All right, y'all, let's hop on over to our exit ticket. Make sure you have the date correct. Today is, well, you're doing your exit ticket on Wednesday, April 29th. Remember, we skipped lesson 11, so we're on M6L12. That's lesson 12. Let's go ahead and read our first question. Like always, make sure you're watching this whole video and you're doing your Zearn lesson before you do your exit ticket. Okay, complete the number sentence by expressing each part using hundredths. Our first addition sentence is 1/10 plus 9 hundredths. I can't add these together because they're different units. Just like I couldn't add my girls and students, I have to change one. So we're going to change tenths into hundredths. So these are the exact same. I'm dropping this first line down here. 1/10 turns into how many hundredths? 1/10 turns into how many hundredths? Okay. If you need help with that, use your place value chart. 1/10 is the same as how many hundredths? I gave you a big clue here. For all my friends watching these videos, you guys are going to be a step ahead. Nice job. All right, and once you have your hundredths, you should be able to add these together. Put your final answer, your sum, in this bottom box right here. All right, nice work. That's question 1. For question 2, we are finding the sum. So you want to convert tenths to hundredths as needed. And then you want to always write your answer as a decimal. I'm looking for decimal answers. So we have to start by adding our fractions. Why can't I add these right now? Think about your denominators. Correct. These are different denominators. They are uncommon. I need to find common denominators. So our first step, step 1, change 3/10 into hundredths. I'll do the first one with you. 3/10. Change it into hundredths. So 10 times 10 is 100. And 3 times 10 is 30. And now I can add these together. 30 hundredths plus 7 hundredths. That's 37 hundredths. How do I write that as a decimal? Think about your place value chart. 37 hundredths. There's no whole numbers. All right, I can't put 37 in my hundredths. I have to spread out those digits. 3 in my tenths, 7 in my hundredths. 0.37. I just gave my friends who watched to the end of the video a huge, huge, huge boost there. Make sure you're following along. All right, I'm going to help out on one more problem. Let's go to question number 5. So you should be able to change this number here into hundredths, okay? Then you'll be able to add them together. Now your answer will be an improper fraction, okay? If you ever have an improper fraction, Here's an example one. Let's take 195 hundredths. If I want to create a mixed number, let's use our number bond. I'm going to pull out 100, my 1 in my hundredths place, so that's 100 hundredths. And then I'm left with 95 hundredths. And then I can just create a mixed number with these. My 100 hundredths, that's one whole. Remember the same number in our numerator and denominator. And then I have 95 hundredths on the side. This isn't your question, but this is a similar example to help you solve it. Okay? And then if I want to change 1 and 95 hundredths to a decimal, I plug it in. So I have 1 decimal point 95 hundredths. 1 and 95 hundredths. So I hope that example really helped. Good luck. Don't just guess, guys. If you need help, I'm here. You can call, you can reach out, you can send me a message on Google Classroom, and I'll reach out to you and I'll help you solve these problems, okay? I won't give you all the answers, but I'll help you along and give you some hints. All right, I'm very proud of you. Enjoy the rest of your Wednesday, and I will catch up with y'all soon. Peace.